Welcome back to How to Invest for Yourself. Today we're going to be talking about simple interest versus daily compound simple interest. Both are simple interest, it's just the way that they're calculated and the way that the math is done. And I'm going to show you in this Excel spreadsheet and also on the whiteboard in a second that basically it doesn't matter which method you choose. All that we care about for our velocity banking is to include interest because we know that there's going to be interest at the end of the month. So we just try to keep the math super simple, and we usually base it on the highest total at the beginning of that month. And that's how we'll calculate our interest. Just so that at the end of the month, as we know that payments go in, expenses come out, our actual balance on the card that we're using or the line of credit that we're using is going to keep on decreasing. But to keep math simple, you can do it by just taking the highest balance on that card for that month and then doing the math of multiplying the percentage rate and then dividing by 12 just to keep math simple. So it'll be an interesting number to say, hey, for example, I did that here, this $519 is the 19.15% interest rate based on the $32,534.52. So you can see here on the bottom of the screen, it shows the B1, which is the $32,534.52, is multiplied by the decimal form of the interest rate, which is 0.1915, and then divided by 12, which gives me $519.20. This is the maximum that I will pay in interest for that billing cycle based on the maximum balance that is on that card in any given day. So we look at that highest number, $32,534.52. That's how I'm going to calculate the math, just to keep things simple whenever I do the velocity banking. So that way, at the end of the billing cycle, as I'm making payments in and taking my expenses out throughout the month, in actuality, I will and I should be a lot lower. The interest rate should come out a lot lower. So we'll do two examples here. So you have column E. Column E is the daily compound simple interest calculation. And then column F is the daily average simple compound interest. So just to keep things super simple in this, we're going to assume that we start the month with our starting balance of $52,534.52. And we're not going to be adding any new charges, and we're not adding any new payments to or taking out, reducing our balance, right? We're only going to be looking at how interest is accumulated versus each one of these. And we're going to show you how the math is done on the whiteboard in the next screen. So we're going to assume that there's 30 days in this billing cycle. So I have a column A here that covers the 30 days, right? Broken down every single day. The balance starts here at $32,534.52. No new charges, as you can see, the entire column C, and there's no payments, column D. So if we looked at the daily compound interest, the way that that's formulated is you take the balance at the beginning of the day, you add in any additional charges and fees and interest, and you take out any payments. So you would subtract. If you made a payment, you would subtract those numbers. So the math that the bank will use is going to be written in your terms and agreement. Basically, it's going to be your card agreement or something like that, and you look up the section that says how we calculate interest, and they will give you the exact formula for how they calculate interest based on your regular purchases, based on cash advances, convenience checks, and the like, and they'll tell you how they calculate it. So in most cases for velocity banking, we just use the daily average and then multiply that by your interest percentage and then divide by 12, because that's how most banks do it. Then there is the simple daily compound interest, which is going to be in this column here, column E. Column E in this daily interest for the balance. So like if you look at this column right here, if you look at this row 6, column B where it says running balance, you're going to see your total is going to be increasing every month, even though you're not adding any new charges and you're not taking out or reducing your balance by making any additional payments. All you're doing is accruing interest over time. And as you can tell, if you look at E6, it starts off at $17.07 for that first day. Then they add the interest in, and then the next day it starts off your balance at a higher number, so $32,551.59. Then they calculate the interest for that day, and then they come up with $17.08. So then here, this last column would be the daily average. So meaning if your balance was $32,534.52, if you didn't add any new charges and you didn't make any payments for the entire billing cycle, and in this case the billing cycle is 30 days. So we put the billing cycle in this very first column, the day count. So the beginning of the cycle is 1, goes all the way through 30, and assuming under column F, you didn't make any additional payments, you didn't charge anything, you didn't do any kind of late fees and nothing like that, this is how they would calculate that interest. Okay, so basically that math would be them adding up every single one of these rows. It would be $32,534.52 for every single day, right? Add it all up, and that'd be the 30 days, right? And you add up all this number, give you a massive number. And then you would take all that, divide by 30, multiply by the interest rate. In this case, my interest rate is 19.15, and then divide by 12, and that would give you your interest of $519.20. Now, notice the difference here between simple interest, daily compounded, versus the daily average compounded. Not so much compounded, just daily average simple interest. Okay, let's take a look at our numbers on a whiteboard here. And I have two different calculations on this board. We'll just focus on this side real quick. This side right here is just going to be how we would do our simple daily compound interest. And the way you would do it is take the total at the beginning of the day. So in this case, we're looking at like day 1 here. So we're looking at day 1. Day 1 is $10,000 for our sample here, times 0.2. We're talking about 20% in interest on this credit card. And the how to calculate the interest is said to state that they do their daily interest at 365 days. So we would do $10,000 times 0.2 divided by 365, and that would give us our total for that day at being $5.47.9, and we just round up to 48 cents. They add on that interest onto the next day's beginning total. So day 2, our day 2 beginning total is going to be $10,005.48. If there's no new charges, no new credits, nothing changes, then day 2 would be this amount times 0.2 divided by 365, and then your interest for that next day would be $5.48. And so on and so on and so on until you get to your 38th day. And that 38th day could be, we'll just blow it out of the water. We'll just say that you'll have a total balance of like $10,100 at the end of the month, right? So you'd have $100 worth of interest tacked onto your bill. I know that's very high. I didn't complete the math all the way out, but you could if you wanted to. So I would just get a piece of paper out, write down $10,000. Your interest rate is 20%. And your compounding daily interest would be taking the $10,000 and adding into the $10,000 any charges you did for that day, and then subtracting out any credits or payments that you made for that day. And then you would do your math, right? So it may start at 10,000, but at the end of the day, what is your end of the day total? So in this case, we're just keeping things simple. We're assuming that this person's not adding any charges, and they're also not taking out or deducting or reducing the amount of debt they got by making payments. So that's how you would do your daily compound interest. Every single day you add it up and then roll that interest over to the next day and so on. Okay, so that's that one. The other way that loans, and not loans, but the way that credit cards will do their math is that say the same $10,000, but this time on the first, you don't make any charges all the way up until the 15th of the month, right? The 15th of the 15th of the billing cycle, the 15th day of the billing cycle, and you charge $100. So you put $100 on that card. that balance will stay in that card for 15 days until you made a payment on the 30th day of the billing cycle. You paid $100 to reduce your amount back down to $10,000. And that was only for 1 day. So if you add up all this, 14 plus 15 plus 1, you should get 30 days, right? 30 days in that billing cycle. And then the math goes as such to find out what your daily average is, and then they add the interest to it. So you're going to add up the three numbers at the top, 140,000, 151, and the 10,000. You should come up to 301,500. Divide by the number of days in the billing cycle, which was 30, and that gives you what your average is for that month, your daily average. So your daily average will be $10,050. Now we're going to add in our interest, right? We're going to figure out what our interest is. So it multiplied by the 20%, which is 0.2. You come up with $2,010 for the entire year. Divide by 12, and now you have your interest total, which is $167.50. That is your interest based on the daily average. And so I hope that this kind of helps clarify things. It's probably going to open up a whole bunch more questions. But if you have any questions, just let me know. I'll try to create another video. I'll try to break things down. If there's any confusion whatsoever, how did I do the math? Where did I get this information from? Some more information that I got from my own personal credit card, so that way there's no confusion. I want to make sure that you can clearly see in the next couple slides here that I have of what my bank account, or well, not my bank account, what my credit card company shows me, and how they calculate the stuff. Yeah, how they calculate the interest, how it's done. And this came straight from my credit card agreement. What grace periods mean. So if you paid off the credit card and you started with a zero balance, you would want to kind of calculate your stuff based on you have a grace period. You don't have to pay anything off immediately, but because you're throwing as much money as you can into your card over time, you're going to see that you're going to owe nothing. Just got to keep in mind that interest will start accruing on any carried over balance to that next billing cycle. The minimum balance due, and you'll be able to find that in your disclosure, and that's basically based off 1%, your minimum balance due. And then that's pretty much it. So take a look at the next few slides. I'll leave that up for you to view. This is just straight from my personal credit card agreement. All right, guys, take your time. And I hope that you have learned something. I hope that I brought some kind of value. Please do comment, share, subscribe. Share this with anybody who you view or you think needs to understand how daily compounded interest is calculated versus daily average interest is calculated. I hope that this helped, and if I did any of the math wrong, hey, let me know. I'm all about learning and correcting my mistakes and stuff like that, so I'm not perfect in any means. And again, educational purposes only. This is not financial advice, and I'm just sharing how I do math and how I calculate things, and this has been working for me. I'm the one who's also doing this along with you, so I'm trying to pay off large amounts of debt as well. So talk to you guys later. Bye.